Are you sure you haven't seen her?" The woman held up the photograph of her missing daughter again, pleading with me to inspect it. "No, ma'am, I haven't. But I will call our fellow rangers and will search the area. Please leave me your contact details and we'll be in touch." My partner, Jerry, stood by me in front of the chain-link fence, barbed wire lining the top, remaining silent and solemn as the mother's distress grew. "What do you mean? I'm coming with you!" She pressured him to no avail. "I can't allow that, I'm afraid. We've had reports of an angry gator in the area and have stationed rangers in the perimeter to stop the general public wandering through and landing themselves in danger. It's for your safety. As my colleague here mentioned, we'll be in touch." "I doubt your daughter made it past the fence, or our guys, but if she's in there, we'll find her," I added firmly, gesturing for the woman to take the beaten path back out of the swamp and towards the road she would have parked her car on. She made a few more attempts to pass us, slamming into the fence and begging to be let into the wetlands before finally giving up, insisting I take the photograph of her lost child. Jerry looked at the picture and then back at me as she walked away. "We need to make contact with the sinkhole. I don't see this ending well," he whispered. I remembered the warning at the end of the special containment procedures. All personnel made aware of a missing person in the area are to raise the alert immediately. Recovery of any lost civilian is always the hope of the Foundation. Once the woman was out of sight, I radioed across to the nearest outpost, tugging nervously on my fake park ranger shirt collar. "Outpost 4, do you copy?" A static buzz was followed by an almost inaudible, "Copy." "There's been a potential breach in the containment of SCP-1692. Accidental breach by a member of the general public. Young girl around 15 years old. Blonde. Mother says she was last seen wearing a red hooded jacket and shorts. Recovery unlikely. Mother at risk of attempting to enter the secure zone and wandering into SCP-1692-2. Have you seen any activity by the sinkhole?" The static on the radio continued, worming its way into my mind.
"It hasn't been present for 2 days. Animal bones seen, but nothing human, and no articles matching the girl you described,"
the voice answered. "Stay vigilant and review the footage of the pit. We'll check for signs of entry and security defects." I gulped, remembering another note in the procedures. CCTV footage of the sinkhole is to be kept recording at all times, reviewed frequently, and regular checks for sightings of the apparition of the anomaly in any of its forms are to be completed regularly. The CCTV does not always pick up what we need it to. Remain vigilant. Jerry and I walked the perimeter of our assigned position, clutching a photograph of the girl as we searched for footprints that ended suddenly, a sure sign that she'd fallen victim to the anomaly. "Jerry, do you think this girl stands a chance? What are the risks?" "Well, SCP-1962 was discovered and contained in the late 1930s after a dramatic increase in the number of missing persons cases in the concentrated area drew the Foundation's attention. Animal bones, along with those of the missing locals, were found by Foundation operatives in a large mud pit frequented by the form of a prepubescent girl, as you know. The SCP has been cited taking the form of its victims too, albeit presenting with missing limbs, organs, or severely psychologically impaired. The few not-so-lucky victims who were found alive presented with similar issues, and died shortly after recovery, save for one. Honestly, man, some of the apparitions of 1692-3 have been truly horrific. So in short, no, I don't think she stands a chance at all." I knew the history of the SCP, but I hadn't been in the organization as long as Jerry. I'd been guarding 1692 for some time, but I'd not been stationed anywhere other than my outpost and hadn't had a single sighting of the anomaly myself. I'm not ashamed to admit, I was anxious. "What about 2 and 3? I asked, thinking about some notes in the file I hadn't read nearly thoroughly enough. Jerry rolled his eyes. "You should know this. I'll ask the guys at the sinkhole to give you a 2 or 1 shift." SCP-1692-2 is the Foundation descriptor for the sinkhole that SCP-1692 was found wandering close to. The sinkhole is at the direct center of the quarantined area, and since the Foundation's discovery of the SCP, multiple sets of animal and human bones and remains have been found in SCP-1692-2. SCP-1692-3 refers to the form taken by the SCP when making attempts to escape containment. It will often appear as something similar to SCP-1692, a missing person or a mammal, except will appear mutilated or deformed, with missing limbs, organs, or psychological impairment. The Foundation decided the safest option for the public and the subject was to quarantine the affected area, stationing a number of highly qualified staff to secure the perimeter and protect all involved. That's why we're all divided out to cover 2 and 3 as well. Containment has been difficult due to all the gators in the area who are able to break through the reinforced metal fence. Our patrols means issues are fixed almost instantly, but lost locals still find their way in. I know you haven't seen it yet, but this is nothing new. I nodded, steadying myself. Jerry had told me the story of the last civilian who wandered into 1692's swampy home, a gator hunter whose pirogue became stuck in the mud after following his prey to a hole in the fence, came to him, pleading for help. He would have been convincing, had it not been for his lack of eyes and an inability to speak in a normal tone or speed. Jerry's partner at the time subdued the anomaly using specialist humane technology developed by the Foundation and dispatched it back to the pit. The hunter's remains were found by operatives coated in mud with rotten flesh forming a thick layer over the bone a week later. I'd been stationed in the area for a year or so, and no incidents had occurred. I hadn't seen any bodies. The veterans of the sinkhole said that they were sporadic but not infrequent, which lowered my hopes for finding the missing girl alive. Hours passed, and the sky went dark before the radio static started back up.
Outpost 3, are you there?
Copy, I answered.
We reviewed the footage of the pit, and we did see a girl matching the description you gave, red hooded jacket and shorts. Footage was timestamped at 9:38 p.m. last night. We're on high alert.
Jerry grabbed the radio. What should we be looking out for, sir? Is there any chance the girl was unaffected and wandered through?
None at all. On the footage, she was missing her right leg below the knee. This impairment did not affect her mobility. We highly suspect the SCP already has or is making an attempt at escape. High alert.
The static faded and the voice disappeared. I felt for my gun in the holster strapped to my leg. I never wanted to use it. The Foundation weren't out to kill, but knowing it was there brought me some comfort. I was talking to a guy from the research outpost the other day. He said it does something to their DNA. It changes them. Jerry tried to make conversation. How? I asked, scanning the trees in the moonlight for signs of any movement. The one that survived, the woman. When she expired in the facility, they couldn't formally identify her. Her DNA didn't match her family. I'm no scientist, but the guy I was speaking to said the whole genetic makeup was deformed, damaged. Fascinating, I thought, but I didn't get time to voice my intrigue. There was a rustling in the trees. Jerry stood square, face deadpan and prepared for any eventuality. I tried to mimic this, but couldn't quite fight the niggling wave of fear I felt. She emerged, the spitting image of the photograph her mother had given me. Her red hooded jacket perfectly matched the description the woman had repeated frantically, and her leg was missing below the knee. There were no signs of amputation, something I had been told was typical in the victims that had been found missing parts. Instead, where the limb should have been, was just nothing. A thigh that faded into an indescribable void. Despite her obvious disability, the girl had no trouble moving through the viscous mud. It was as if the limb were still there, but simply invisible. She came towards us quickly, reaching me before Jerry, who was some distance behind. "Hello, Ranger. Can you help me? I'm lost," she asked, her voice high-pitched and pitiful. She was a sympathetic sight, a young girl, disheveled and wandering through the dark, intimidating rows of trees. Despite her unthreatening appearance, I knew I needed to think fast. "Where did you come from?" I asked, as Jerry closed distance between himself and the girl, reaching in his pocket for the containment device. She reached an arm out straight and pointed at the gap in the trees at the very end of our part of the perimeter, the only part we had not yet been able to survey. Eyes squinting, I spied a dark void where the fence should be. As Jerry passed me, he muttered under his breath, "The Foundation's gonna be pleased we caught this one in time." "Come here, sweetheart," he said much louder in his faux friendly ranger voice. Jerry was as great an actor as he was a guard. The girl walked to him, and he stretched his hand and tightly clasped her shoulder. I looked hard at the girl, sure that the missing leg wasn't the only difference I could see. Fumbling in my pocket, I pulled out the crumpled photograph her mother had given me. Even in the dark, it was apparent. Her eyes had gone from a brilliant blue to a deep amber. "Jerry," I started, but it was too late. As his hand made contact with her, she screeched, making an ear-splitting sound. I tinkered with the radio as I ran into the building chaos. "This is a message to all. Backup needed. Subject located. Outpost 3. Jerry ignored her screams, tightening his grip on her shoulder as he tied the solid, handcuff-like links he'd enclosed in his hand around her wrists. Made of redacted material, the containment links were developed by the research outpost early into the Foundation's involvement in SCP-1692. The material was used to reinforce the fence a decade into containment, resulting in a decrease in incidents. The material has been quite effective in securing the anomaly in high-alert situations. Once the links were secured, the girl stopped screaming. "I'm just lost. Please help me, Ranger. My mom will worry." It looked up at me, pleading. "Don't engage with it," Jerry reminded me as I struggled to take my eyes away from its mesmerizing amber irises. Static began. "Outpost 4, do you read?" "We're here. Subject secured. Collection and fence repair required. We'll hang tight," Jerry answered coolly. I struggled to keep my eyes off the girl. Her eyes, her red hooded coat, her missing leg. It took 10 minutes for the other operatives to arrive. Soon, our outpost was swarming with Foundation staff, including a fascinated-looking man I hadn't seen before, sporting a white lab coat in an unmarked all-terrain vehicle. He had security staff at his side at all times, indicating a higher position within the Foundation, presumably as a research scientist. Fence repair was undertaken swiftly, and the quarantined area was secured. The girl traveled in the vehicle with the scientist. "Where will she go?" I asked a member of security as they pulled away. "I have her mom's contact details. Do you need them?" The guard thanked me and took the piece of paper. The flurry of activity was soon over. With the outpost repaired and the multiple extra agents gone, soon Jerry and I were alone with our outpost again. "Did you hear what they found?" "No," I answered. "What are you talking about?" "Around the same time as you called for backup, the guy stationed at the pit noticed bones. A skull, missing a jaw with a malformed eye socket. Definitely human. First time in a while it's claimed a person." "So that girl definitely wasn't—" I started to ask, but Jerry cut me off. "It wasn't a girl. You just met 1692-3. Item number: SCP-1692. Object class: Elucid.